I've been seeing a lot of videos recently on things that people wish they knew when they were in their 20s. And as someone who recently turned 21 and has been able to speak with some of the most profound thought leaders on this planet, I thought it'd be a great time to dive into 15 things that I'm grateful that I do know in my 20s. So let's dive right in. Number one, it's better to admit that you walk through the wrong door than then spend a lot of time in the wrong rooms. A lot of people stick at a job or relationship for much longer than they need to, and much longer than really gives them any kind of value in their life. But it's really hard to admit that you're in the wrong room. It's hard to admit that you're in a position that you really don't belong in. It's hard to admit to yourself that you maybe didn't make the right choice, or that you're not happy with the choice that you did make, whatever it may be. A lot of people stay in a position for longer than they need to because of this sunken cost fallacy, that I spent so much energy, so much time into this thing, so much money into this thing that I just need to stick it out. But the reality of it is it's better to admit that you walk through the wrong door than to spend a lot of time in the wrong rooms. Number two, your professional development will never exceed your personal development. I recently talked to Hal Elrod, the author of The Miracle Morning, who has sold millions of copies of his book. And we were talking about this on the podcast, and I think it's more prevalent than ever. Because if you really think of the things that you want in your life, the business growth, the money, whatever it is, you need to be the person that can create those things. You have to be, do, have. And that way of living really is true. And I think a lot of the time we just think about what we want to have, and we don't think about the person that we need to become in order to have those things. And so if you're not really liking the professional aspect of your life, if you're not liking the results that you're getting, look at the personal. How are you showing up? How are you being in your life? Are you taking the actions that you need to take to create the results that you want to create in your life? Because I think this is a really hard thing to admit, that when we're not getting what we want, the reality of it is we're probably not being the person that we need to be in order to get what we want. Number three, and this kind of dives a little bit deeper on number two, but I was recently speaking with a financial psychologist on my podcast. And when he was talking about this and how it relates to money. But if you don't have what you want, you're not the person that deserves it. And not in the sense that you're not capable or you're not inherently worthy, but more so, do you actually have the skill set in order to get what you want? Are you the kind of person that actually can provide the value to get what you want? If you want to make $1 million, do you have the value? Do you have the skill sets to actually create that? And it's likely no, because if you did, you would already have it. And so it's a brutal truth, and we have to accept it. But to get what you want, you have to be the person that deserves it, and not from an inherent sense, because you're inherently worthy as you are, and you deserve all of what you want in your life. But do you have the value to provide to actually deserve it? Number four, inaction should scare you a lot more than taking action and failing. A question that I've asked pretty much every single client that I've ever worked with is, what is the cost of inaction? A lot of the time we think about what is going to happen if we take action on something and we fail at it. But the real question we need to be asking ourselves is, what is the cost of inaction? Because when you get to the end of your life, the things that you regret the most are the things that you didn't do, not the things that you did do and failed at. Next, number five, you don't have to want what you think you're supposed to want. You get to choose. This one's a little convoluted, but I want you to take this perspective into account. A lot of the time in life, we are taught what we're supposed to want, be it a house, a car, a family, a well-paying job. Doesn't matter. Just think about most of the things that you have been told that you should want in your life. And I'm going to use the example of a house. Ramit Sethi, whose book I have behind me, How I'll Teach You to Get Rich, talks about how rent is probably a better route for most people than buying a house actually is. But we've been taught to want a house. And so for everything in life, whatever it is, whether it's a job or it's a way of living, a lot of people have been taught how to live or how to want things in their life. But the reality of it is, whether it's whatever you define as success, you get to define it. And I think we often forget that because we're throwing so much every day now through social media of these lifestyles that people live that we never really ask ourselves, what do I actually want? Because you get to choose that. And I think we often forget that a lot of the time. Next is, the solution to almost everything is just to zoom out. A lot of the time we get so closed in on our problems that we forget that there are other people dealing with those exact problems. And it doesn't mean to denounce those problems that we have or to undermine them by any means, but it's to recognize that there are so many other people dealing with the same problems that you're dealing with, have dealt with, or will deal with in the future. And so just to zoom out, to recognize that this problem that I'm currently dealing with right now is not my entire life. It may feel like my entire life right now. I may be fully consumed by it, but just to get another person's perspective on that problem, or to zoom out and recognize that it probably will only last 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. In the grand scheme of life, the problem that you're currently dealing with probably isn't that significant. And even if it is, giving so much emphasis to it only makes it bigger. Next, if you want an easy life, you have to do hard things. I have this sticky note on my wall that has been there for years And it is so, so true. If you want an easy life, you have to do hard things. And it sounds counterintuitive, but life's going to present you with a lot of difficult situations in your life. And if you're not able to prepare yourself for those situations, they're going to feel even more monstrous and more just overwhelming when they come up in your life. And so if you do hard things on a day-to-day basis and you inflict suffering on yourself without anyone asking you to do it, but you simply do it for yourself, whether it's going on a run or going to the gym or doing a cold plunge or meditating, like it doesn't matter what it is, but just inflicting suffering upon yourself, life will be so much easier for you when the hard things actually do come in your life because you're already prepared for them. You're already inflicting them upon yourself and you're not waiting for them to happen. Next, and this one is, we all know, but we know probably most of these, but it's really hard to internalize, that absolutely no one knows what they're doing. And this warms my heart every time I think about it because it reminds me that everyone that you look up to, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your friends, celebrities, whoever it may be, they're living life for the first time, just like you're living life for the first time. They may be further along in life. They may have learned a couple more things than you have learned, but they're still living life for the first time. And so just understanding that no one knows what they're doing. We're all just guessing and pretending. And some people may pretend a hell of a lot better, but no one has it truly figured out. And that's the whole purpose of life, is to just appreciate not having it figured out and experiencing life for what it is and not what you want it to be. Next one. You do a disservice by not bringing your unique gifts into the world. My first coach told me this, and it has stuck with me ever since, because the reality of it is that we all have something to give into the world. And if you're really going to let your fear, your imposter syndrome, your whatever it is hold you back from helping people that need your help, you're simply just doing a disservice because you have something to give into the world. You may not inherently believe it, but I think deep down you know it. Next, you will get what you look for in this life. You do not experience life for what it is. You experience life through what you think it is. The great example of the father that had two sons, the alcoholic father. One son became multi-successful. And when people asked him how he became successful, he said, well, my father was an alcoholic and I didn't want to become like him. The other son, well, you can guess what happened. He ended up just like his father. And why? Because his dad was that way and he used that to blame him. And so your life, you're going to get what you look for. If you're looking for reasons to reinforce why X is happening or why this holds you back, you're going to get it. But if you look for reasons to support the person that you want to become and the life that you want to create, those things that held you back can be the exact thing that pushes you forward. But you're going to get what you look for. Next, your life will be a reflection of your belief in yourself. Some of the most profound people that I've ever spoken to in my podcast that have sold their business and companies for hundreds of millions of dollars have come back to one thing that I really see to be true, and it's the core of my podcast as a whole, is that your beliefs reinforce the life that you create for yourself. And so if you don't believe in yourself, so I want you to think of this model as a whole. Belief drives behavior and behavior drives belief. They both go hand in hand. And what do both of them equal? Our results in our life. And so if you don't have the belief, well, you need to behave in ways to create belief within yourself, because no one's going to believe in you if you don't believe in you. Why would they? But I do think it's powerful to find someone that believes in you more than you believe in yourself so that you can believe in yourself more and then start showing up for yourself more, because your life really will be a reflection of your belief within yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone believe in you? And to create anything in your life, you have to have belief, because that's going to drive your behavior, or your behavior will drive your belief, which will end result create more belief within yourself, creating more results, and just ultimately helping you create the life that you want. But if you don't believe you're worthy of creating a life that you truly love, well, then why would you take the action to create it? And so that belief is really foundational in creating everything in your life. Next, problems replace problems. The problems that you're currently dealing with, you may feel as though you would do anything to get rid of them. But once you get rid of those problems, more problems are going to come, right? It's like the mountain is after the mountain. Everything that we're looking to overcome, we will eventually be replaced with something else that we will want to overcome. And so the whole purpose of life is to just enjoy the passage of time. It's to find problems that you actually enjoy dealing with. Because if you had no problems to deal with, life would be pretty freaking boring. But the fact that you have problems to deal with, learn to appreciate them. And if you don't like them, find problems that you do want to solve. Next one. It may not be your fault, but it definitely is still your responsibility. Maybe you got put in a position where you grew up in a small town, or your parents gave you a lot of trauma around money or relationships, whatever it is. Every single one of us has been given a lot that we didn't really ask for. It may not be our fault. It's still our responsibility. And once you take on that belief and you really hold it true to yourself and you recognize that at the end of the day, it's still up to you, then you take full responsibility for your life, and then you could actually start to make change in your life. Next, life is always asking you what you want, and your actions are your responses. In life, most of the time when we're about to make a quantum leap in our life, that is when life tests you the most. When you feel like you're at your worst, that is when life is trying to ask you, do you really want it? And every really instance in my life where I made a massive leap, life was asking me if I actually wanted it by challenging me even more. And so rather than seeing it as life trying to push you down and keep you where you are, see it as an opportunity to become the kind of person that actually can create that leap in your life. Next, the language you use is kind of like the code that your mind works on. If you think of your mind like a computer, when you use the words I can't, or I should, or I'll try that, you're just using limiting language that only keeps you in the kind of reality that you're currently creating for yourself. And so if you're not able to change your language that you use in your life, you probably won't be able to change the results that you get in your life because they are creating the lens that you see life through and the way that you move through life. And lastly, most things can be solved by a 20-minute walk with no headphones. If you really think about how many times a week, even a day, that you spend just with yourself, not YouTube, not a podcast, except mine, not music, nothing. And you just sit with yourself. A lot of the problems that you're dealing with can be overcome or at least approached with a little bit more acceptance if you were just able to sit with yourself by yourself. Maybe that even means going on a walk because you can't actually sit. So these were 15 things, mindsets, perspectives that I think have been really valuable to me. And I'm truly grateful that I do know in my 20s because I think it takes from the people that I've been able to speak to decades of their life to come to the conclusion of. And hopefully these were valuable to you. And if they were, leave a comment below.